Beautiful morning to you guys. It's such a beautiful day today, so I figured I would make this video at the beach. Sometimes the beach is my place to go to get grounded. It's one of the best places to get grounded actually, because it leaves your root chakra, your soul chakra at the bottom of your feet open to connect with the earth, the ether, and for you to ground. Today's topic video is how to silence your ego so you can be happy. Because most of the time, well, almost all the time, you will not find happiness when you have an ego. You will never be happy when you have an ego. It's kind of chilly out here today for some reason. But once the sun comes up, it's sure to warm up. So, how do you silence your ego? Well, I'll explain to you what the ego is. The ego is, most people think the ego is their identity. Most people think the ego is who they are. And they associate themselves with the body. The more they associate themselves with the body and with the physical aspect of themselves, then the ego gets stronger. So let's say, for example, we have girl A. She can be. This is where most narcissism stems from, because most people associate themselves with the body, so they think they are the body. So they try to make the body look good, so they get validations from other people. The more validations you get from other people, the bigger the ego gets, because you allow those compliments to get to your head. And then the bigger the ego gets, then it distorts your reality, and you are constantly trying to improve the body. The more you get dragged down that hole, and it's going to be hard for you to come up to see the true reality. So your ego is the filter that filters information that comes to your conscious mind, because everything you've learned, everything you've experienced in life, everything you've witnessed is stored into your subconscious mind. So you yourself is just a recorder, an experiencer of life. You are just in the back seat. So as you continue to experience life, then based on your programming you have in your mind, based on the experiences you have, the ego determines what you see in this reality. The ego determines your reality. So that's why it's going to be very difficult for anyone with a big ego to ever have happiness, to ever find happiness. And the ego will always get in the way. Most of the time when you are listening to truth, the ego will feel threatened, because it will threaten the reality. So whenever you try to improve yourself, the ego will feel threatened. So for instance, if you're having a conversation with someone and they say something that doesn't conform with your reality, that doesn't line up with your reality, the ego will feel threatened. Then you will feel irritated toward that person, and you will feel animosity toward that person, because the ego's reality is threatened. Because most people don't like to change their life. It's not them that doesn't want to change, it's the ego that does not want to change. Because it's hard. I've been there, so I know what it is. I used to have an ego too. Everyone used to have an ego. The only person that does not have an ego is a child. A child is pure consciousness. That's why I love being around children. I learn a lot from them. You can learn how to be happy from a child. Because as the child grows up, then the parents give them the identity of who they are. They boost their ego, and through education system, the ego gets bigger. Now it becomes very difficult to silence the ego. So the best way to silence the ego is to engage in activities that makes you, for instance, uh, I used to, I still love to play chess, but sometimes I like to lose purpose, and especially when I am involved in like sport activities, I like to lose because when you, how does it how does it make you feel when you are competing with someone and you are constantly losing? You get very irritable. You get very angry. You get upset. That is not you. That is the ego. The more you can, the more you can afford to play and keep losing without getting angry, you are silencing the ego. Because the ego, all the ego wants to do is the ego wants to win. The ego wants to feel better than the next person. The ego wants to be better than its competition. So that's why a lot of people likes to engage in competition because the ego wants to win. The ego wants to feel better than the next person. There's no such thing as one person being better than the next person because every human is the same. I see every human on the same level. There's no such thing as a person's life is worth more than the next person's life. I see a lot of people saying compare their life to the value of money. They would say, "Oh, this guy's car is worth more than your life." How can someone's life be worth? How how can money or material possessions be worth more than someone's life? Life is the most important thing. Life is the most valuable thing because once you lose a life, you cannot gain it back. But once you lose money, no matter what the amount, it can be printed, it can be gained right back. But life is valuable. But most people are stuck in the ego trip and they fail to see through life. So it will be very difficult for them to find happiness. So the ego is always wants to be right. The ego always wants to be better than the next person. So once you silence the ego, then you no longer engage in competition. You no longer engage in ego trips, trying to be better than the next person, thinking you are better than the next person, thinking you are superior than the next person. No one is inferior, nor is anyone superior to anyone, because one person is always going to be better than you in one subject or in one thing versus the other. One person is going to know more than you in one area in life, and so on. So there is no such thing as one person being inferior or superior to another. It's just the ego. The ego is clouding judgments. The ego is clouding judgments. So it distorts your reality. So you are living in lower consciousness, which involves competition with each other, trying to be better than the next person. Never try to be better than the next person because you will never be better than anyone. It's like comparing oranges to apples. Oh, the water feels amazing. You cannot compare one person to the next person. You're comparing oranges to apples. Just worry about improving yourself and try not to, compete with anyone. When you try to compete, you are increasing the size of your ego. So I encourage to involve yourself in competition and observe how it makes you feel when you lose. That is not you that's feeling that way. That is the ego. The ego is feeling threatened. So always try to, the more you lose, continue to play. Continue to lose and continue to See how it makes you feel, but don't react. Just respond to those emotions, because those emotions are not you. They are the ego. The ego is a false identity. It's not who you are. The body is not who you are. You are pure energy, pure consciousness. Until the next video.